Welcome back to session 33, and I would like to review the previous 32 sessions, which covered the first three sentences of the opening paragraph of Dao De Jing. And of course, I would always start with the Chinese, the original literature, and then we get to the context in English as I personally interpret and translate. So the first three sentences they go as 道可道，非常道；名可名，非常名。无名，天地之始；有名，万物之母。故常无，以观其妙；常有，以观其徼。So these three Chinese characters made up sentences as I break them, and nevertheless take the meanings as I elected. My personal interpretation and translation would go as 道可道，非常道. All the universal laws cannot be reduced to define as the rules for the specifics. And then 名可名，非常名. That is, all those specifically described and defined stand to be corrected. And then we have the 无名，天地之始；有名，万物之母. So basically, humankind arrive at certain knowledge accumulated from unknown to known in a process from, basically nothing was described, defined, and of course the humankind, came into its own existence way, way after the formation of the Earth's planet. So of course, there's I guess a time lagging in between the two, which is of course naturally understood. And then we come to 故常无，以观其妙；常有，以观其徼. So what that said, I guess was described or interpreted in the last two sessions, the 31 and 32 session, which basically we already talked about in these two sessions, that this two halves of the one complete sentence as the third sentence pretty much, I guess, talk about, there are things that you pretty much just, you could just feel with your heart. You do not necessarily need to know why, and you do not really want to describe and define in a very scientific way. But then there are also other, truths, discoveries that you do have the tools to measure and to observe, along the change course, through the whole path. So personally, I would think, art would probably, fall better into the first category, and the science and engineering would probably fall better into this second category. So what does that mean so far? I guess I think it's onto the cognition from the angle of a Taoist. Basically, it is the first two sentences is about, we know what we know, we know what we don't know, and then there are also those that we don't know what we don't know, right? I don't know if there's things that we don't know whether we do know, right? Once again, that's not a tongue twister. I mean, you think about it, it makes a lot of sense, I guess, at the deep level. But the latest or the third sentence, actually, I think it's talking about do we need to know what we don't know, or do we even want to know what we don't know, right? Like, let's say you're the way you're treated by your family and your best friends, the love and the friendship, the real friendship, actually means they can tolerate you a lot more when you are really just completely being yourself. You don't dare to do that around your colleagues, your neighbors. You really want to be a little more polite, which means you're more, preserving of the part of that the whole truth about yourself. You don't want them to find out about you. Why? Because they may or may not be able to tolerate you, right? Until that relationship of colleague or neighbor actually evolved into some kind of, I guess, friendship. And then with that, they will be, I guess, at least a bit more tolerating, right? So do you really need to know, right? Like, oh, why you're so nice to me? I know people ask that all the time, right? But deep down, it's really just some kind of like I guess, secure insecurity. That you don't really know how much do they love you, do they care for you, they care about you. So you need the reassurance. So you don't really like need to know why they are, so tolerating about all your, weakness, being the whole part of you completely a display, exposure in the, I guess, somewhat daily life, because you have more contact, with them. So as far as, I perceive, I do not believe you necessarily need to know or even want to know. Basically, you're just enjoying that, right? And this, I guess, it's not just human being. You would actually see that in the behaviors of your pets, right? Um, your cats, your dogs, they always show the part they depend on you emotionally. But lots of times they feel a little insecure and they want a reassurance. So they get on your lap and basically they expect you to, scratch their back or pat on them, that sort of things. But sometimes if you're in a hurry for something, you got go away, and then you put them uh, in the place where they normally should be under such circumstances. They know that they know what's coming, but what would happen, which would become very interesting to observe, you would see them look away, okay? Like they're watching something, observing something else. Like at that point, they don't have time for you, but know what it is. Even animals, they have face like human. When they lose their face, they feel embarrassed and they look away, okay? I'm not a psychiatrist, not even, let alone a animal psychiatrist, but I don't need to know that, scientific truths about the pets. Because when I observe them, I know they feel embarrassed. And, of course, I feel that. And I also feel a little sorry for them. But hey, if I have things I got to do, I have things I got to do, right? So that's just the pets, right? And there are a lot of things about pets that, we may or may not have uh, scientific knowledge to explain. So when you see the birds, this is not the birds we're, in the backyard we feed the wild birds. We're talking about the birds, unfortunately, sometimes in cages. I don't do that anymore. But when I did, you would see birds feel so secure when they're at the top of the cage or wherever you put them. If they're flying around in your house, they will land up somewhere really high. Why? Hey, before they became domesticated, uh, that was just the nature. So they want to protect themselves from being prey by other animals or bigger birds. But staying high enough make them feel safe. I guess from other animals, not necessarily from snakes or eagles, hawks. I don't know, but anyway, so you always see them like that. And then dogs, especially the quote unquote better dogs, at night when they sleep, most likely they will have their rear, against the direction they feel more secured and have their head towards the doors where the perceived threats might come through in that direction, right? So all this basically is just the trait they I guess inherited from the bloodline, from tracing back to the days while they were out there in the you know mother nature as the wild animals. All this domestication did not really get rid of all those traditional or whatever the inherited traits, and they still have that. So there are a lot of this, like you can call it choose like, discovery. Uh, that there are a lot of aspects you do have your, I guess, uh, intellectual curiosity you need to satisfy. You want to have the knowledge to explain, to reason. But then once again, like what I just mentioned, when it comes to like a human feeling, human touch, or the arts, the artistic expression is basically through the good use and arrangement, rearrangement of symbols to communicate with you, right? And that was, I guess, the quote unquote function of arts. And so there you are, basically, and I mentioned this before, right? Totally, uh, totally marinated by, let's say, a piece of Bach. You don't need to know anything. You don't want to know anything. Basically, you're just there, enjoy yourself, right? And that's not really, you know, just it because that's just the music. What about paintings? When you pass through art museums, for me, I've been to a few museums around the world, and I typically just walk really fast, passing, I guess, different display rooms, make a quick round, but then suddenly I would stop, okay, and it's very fast walking. I stop in front of certain paintings. A lot of time, of course, if you spend some time on art history, get acquainted or more acquainted with certain schools and of art movements and the certain representative of those certain schools, um, lots of time you can spot them from probably 20 meters away. Uh, just the very typical style, which is very, I guess, you get familiarized. But a lot of time, even this is a painting of a brand new artist to you. You never heard of the name or ever saw the image of his or her works, but you stop right there instantly. Or even when you pass, couple of steps, and then you step back and you look back, and then you stand there probably for another 20 minutes or 30, right? There is something so appealing to you. The art is talking to you, right? So that's the communication process, okay? Um, do you need to know why? Do you want to know why? Why you stop at this painting, okay, in front of this painting, but you basically skip a whole bunch of other paintings? You probably could explain if you want to. You could explain why, but I don't think that's the point. Basically, just stand there and appreciate. And being an artist myself, basically, I'll be honest with you. I always started with the moment of total jealousy. I guess you can call it professional jealousy or envy, right? Uh, for me, I would start from the process from uh, trying to pick on the artwork. Oh, this is not good. That is not good. But there are always those paintings. They're almost impeccable. Okay, and if you really appreciate some artworks, but you're not really reducing yourself at the level of appreciating the techniques, but really the angle of observation, the independent, thought of the artist, you can see that right through there. You can't really pick on that. Okay, of course, you can always pick on the techniques. Nobody's perfect. Technique, there's always some flaw here and there. But if you see the magic touch, okay, you would love that. And then, of course, a piece of art is not a political statement or something, or philosophy, I guess, academic paper. No, it's not that. A lot of it just basically is almost like an instant natural flow out of the heart of artists and just there, evident on the canvas or paper or whatever, right? So that would be the example. I don't care to know why. I don't need to define this, and I would leave this either to the art theory experts or art historians or the curators of the art museums. That's not my job. I'm just here basically to enjoy. Okay, so I would call it that, as a moment of truth. But that's the kind of truth you don't really need to go dig, to get to the bottom of it, like exactly why of this, why of that, and why of everything. No, just simply enjoy. It's just kind of like, you're out there, which I mentioned before in previous sessions, right? You sit out there just, it doesn't have to be a fish pond, but for me, it's a koi pond. Somewhere, let's say it just simply a rock chair, right? In front of your house or in your front yard or backyard. Enjoy the nice weather, the sunny weather in a not so hot day on a, a somewhat a colder day or chilly day, but the warm, sunny feeling, and then a little, nice breeze. You don't need to know anything, right? You don't want to know everything. And of course, the Buddhists, they do the meditation to get to the point that they don't think about anything and everything. But with this, you don't have to say anything. And it's so nice about that. You don't have to think about anything. You don't have to be anywhere. That is such a nice feeling, isn't it? Think about it. Until the next session, ciao.